eggs for breakfast with toast and butter on the toast.
Oh.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Ollie, and I'm with my brother Sammy and my sister Kailey.
Hi.
Hi.
For this podcast, I wanted to talk about mindfulness and meditation. And this is something that I've always been kind of interested in, but I feel like it is also relatable to what's going on with COVID right now. And that's because I think through a meditation and mindfulness practice, you can gain insights into your mind. And along with that, you'll get the added benefit of kind of an additional focus, more calm, less stress. But the insights are very powerful. And one of them that could be applicable to the COVID situation is that although external circumstances do matter, it's your reaction to those circumstances that produce the suffering. Like any happiness or suffering, no matter how extreme, at the end of the day, those are mental events, right? And that's why I think mindfulness and meditation could be applicable to that. But in general, I would have wanted to talk about it regardless of what was happening, COVID or not.
For sure. I know, like, I kind of started meditating from your advice probably about a year ago now. And maybe, do we want to kind of just cover what meditating is kind of? Because I know when, like, before I started kind of practicing meditating, I think in my mind what I always thought it was like I think of like some monks and on like a hill or something, or like just sitting in silence or something, and I'm like, meditation, this is like some hippie kind of thing, but
right
now I've learned so much more about it, and you kind of explained it to me, so I don't know if you want to explain it here.
I do want to get into like what the definition of mindfulness is, but I like you're saying, I know both you guys have started doing some meditation practices, and I was wondering if you could kind of say what the benefits you've seen so far have been. I know you started like a couple years ago, same with me roughly, where I was doing like a daily thing. What have you seen the benefits to be?
Yeah, a lot of benefits. And I also just have to credit you to being the person that introduced me to being more mindful and actually practicing meditation. So thank you, Oliver.
Go ahead. Just a lot of people listening probably won't know that nickname. I was just thinking.
Yeah, that's what I thought of as well. Yeah. So Oliver.
That nickname is Rolliver, by the way.
Yeah.
So for me, mindfulness is like, when you use the word that it's like very powerful, I actually was like, it's almost like a superpower in like the hopefully the least like cliche way possible. If people are hearing that. I found it to be like life changing, the ability to stop and reflect and have time to, or you basically are gifting yourself with time to then react how you would like to. Be able to shift your perspective in situations, have more positive, more positivity, more gratitude in your life. It really allows you to be attentive. I find it gives you time, it gives you attention to just be the better version of yourself.
Yeah, I think what it is it allows you to be aware of everything that's going on. And then you can, with that awareness, you can prioritize to what exactly you want to put your attention on. So like in this moment, there's a humming of that, I guess the HVAC system's humming. On the TV, we can see the podcast stuff is slowly sliding along. Both you guys are talking to me. Maybe I'm feeling some sensations of like my hands are a little bit cold right now. And I think mindfulness is the awareness of everything that is going on. But with that, you can then direct your attention towards what you would prefer to have it on. And for me right now, I don't want to be paying attention to the HVAC thing humming. I want to be paying attention to this conversation and what's going on.
Yeah.
And
kind of for me, like just getting a bit more control over your awareness and like, yeah, kind of like focusing your attention like on like what you want to, rather than like after I started meditating for a bit, like only then did I realize like how kind of out of control and busy my mind was for like who knows how long, where it's just kind of like almost like nobody's driving the ship and it's kind of just like going crazy, like kind of monkey mind kind of thing, or whatever.
You're thinking unconsciously like all day long. And I like the analogy of your attention is kind of bouncing around like a pinball in a pinball machine, especially these days with so many things that are going to grab your attention and capture you. Your attention is just like flying all over the place, and throughout the whole day you've probably been thinking unconsciously, and a lot of those thoughts are like neurotic, like anxiety, like depressive thoughts, and the problem is that when you're not aware of them, you are far more likely to become identified with them. When you're thinking and you're not aware that you're thinking, that is when you lose the space that is like open consciousness. Like an open awareness would be when you're noticing all of the things that are potentially around you, the sights, the sounds, the sensations you feel in your body, and the thoughts. But when you lose that awareness, you lose the space, and you get more identified with a specific thing.
Oh, okay.
Like an example of this is the other day when I was just kind of like writing about this. I started to think about a problem that I've been dealing with, and it was something that has been like it immediately, as soon as the thought arose, it made me feel kind of like anxious.
Okay.
And I basically got sucked into that like black hole, because the thought I lost all of the space between everything else that is happening in my mind at that moment. And I got basically sucked into the black hole of that thought. And so I became identified with that, and all I was experiencing was the anxiety that thought produced, and there's nothing else. Like maybe in that moment there was some sounds, maybe some music or some sounds, or maybe my feet were like hot or cold or whatever it was. I'm just saying, like there's probably some other sensations that I completely lost track of.
Right.
And that's what the mindfulness is. You lose the full awareness.
It's interesting in situations like that, because like I've experienced that before too, when you'll be having a good time and then all of a sudden you'll think of something, you'll be like, oh no, like, and it kind of shifts everything. And like it's just interesting because like physically, like nothing has changed. There's no difference between like 5 minutes ago and now, except you have a completely different feeling that's kind of coloring all of your thoughts now. And like kind of making you possibly feel stressed or anxious or whatever.
I had that happen to me this morning, actually, where I woke up and it's Sunday today. We're not working, but I thought about something about work. Like woke up and was feeling great, and I was like, oh, it's a great new day. And then I started thinking about something at work that's due on Thursday. And I instantly was like, oh my gosh, let me like I started to dwell in that spot and be like, hey, here's all the things I have to do when I get back into the office, and all this stuff needs to be done, and like, oh, I really should be worrying about this more. And then I took what I've practiced and was able to kind of shift my focus off that and become more aware of like the present moment.
It's the practice of stepping back, and then by stepping back, like mentally stepping back, you get a perspective of the actual thought that you had, and you're almost observing the thought, and that's a far less mentally painful situation to be. Like Kailey, for that example where you started to dwell about something you had to do for work, it was when you were able to take a step back and realize, oh, I'm thinking about me doing this thing at work, and that's making me nervous, or that's making me anxious, or whatever it is. But for as long as you were essentially identified with that thought and totally like it totally grabbed you and got your full attention, and you weren't able to create the space and weren't able to step back, that's when you get essentially trapped in whatever emotion that thought is going to be giving you. You're so right. It's freeing. I'd say a very good word to describe becoming mindful is that you feel like a weight lifted off of yourself, and you feel more in control, like you mentioned, Sammy, and just like this sense of organization over your whole self.
Yeah, and I always like the analogy to kind of paint the picture for that kind of scenario of stepping back, where it's like you're in like a movie theater kind of thing, and like sometimes you're so involved in the movie that it's just like controlling all your emotions, and stepping back is kind of like just realizing that you're watching this like from like a perspective, like almost like a movie theater, like you're sitting in a seat and you're like, oh yeah, wait a second, like these are just thoughts, but I'm not like, I don't have to be like in the thoughts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the difference between you being anxious and you seeing that you're feeling anxious.
Exactly, yeah.
And that is that can be a big relief. And Sammy, you mentioned just the idea that maybe 5 minutes before you had that thought, you were completely content and nothing in your external environment actually changed, but that one thought alone sent you down into a rabbit hole of feeling terrible. And the power of mindfulness and trying to do a meditation practice is that it's not that you're not going to feel those bad things anymore. It would just be that when you start to get sucked into that rabbit hole of feeling anxious or ruminating about some unnecessary things, is that you'll be able to catch yourself quicker. And the difference between you starting to feel anxious or starting to feel angry and not catching yourself for the rest of the day or for the next few hours versus catching yourself like 10 minutes, 5 minutes in, and then being able to reset and kind of let go of that, could be extremely significant, especially with the anger one. Like imagine that, like if you got into like a fit of rage and you're not able to take a step back and see the anger, the stuff that you could do in your life, the people that you could get mad at, and the things that you could do destructively could actually change your whole life. And so the ability to catch it earlier could actually be life-changing.
Yeah,
for sure. And
just like the kind of energy consumption that the kind of stressing or like anxiety will take, like the toll it has on you. Like I know, like if I have to do a presentation or something in a day and like I'm stressing all morning, like really just in these thoughts, like I'm just straight in the anxiety without having mindfulness, like I'll get exhausted, you know. But then if I can catch it and kind of just realize, like take the step back and kind of see that like I'm feeling this anxiety, I don't know, it just kind of helps, and you can kind of direct your mind in a better place and you don't get kind of like all worn out.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned at the beginning, Sammy, about how like meditation, you might picture some monks like hanging out on like a cave or a rock or whatever. Because I used to always feel like that too. I'm sure if someone introduced meditation to me like way back, like I don't know, like 5-10 years ago, I would have been like, what is this? This is some like I don't know, hippie nonsense. Like I could just picture it being like, yo bro, like you gotta start meditating. Like it's just exactly. It's the best. But like it's too bad that there may be that what do you say, like stigma around it or whatever, but
like misconception about it. It's also, as we're talking, I'm thinking like, how do you make meditation and mindfulness sound exciting? Like, what are the tips and tricks, and the top things? But it really isn't like that.
And it's something like, that it's not. It's like, even like when you asked Ollie at the beginning of this, like what are the benefits, or like what benefits have we seen and stuff? I find it's a hard thing to express to somebody else, like exactly what's going on. Or I find it hard anyway. It's just like, when you know.
yeah, when you know.
It's just it's basically like just understanding your own mind a little better. And I think everybody's mind maybe is a little different, like which is why
becoming friends with your mind.
Yeah.
Like, let me get to know
you're
you.
Like, my thoughts they come like this, and I have problems like when this happens, and just kind of understanding how your own mind works, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes it can be hard to like kind of quantify exactly what the benefits are. But if I'm to try to think about where I could see the benefits for me, some of them, the bigger ones are just, I feel like I've gotten an increase in focus and the ability to not get pulled in by distractions, like able to prioritize when, let's say I'm reading or something and maybe my phone goes off. I recognize that that's probably not that important, and I prefer to continue reading. So it's just like less stress, focus, a little bit more calm. But I think the the insights that you gain from meditation are almost the more beneficial thing. Like just the insight into that, like sometimes I'll start to feel anxiety, and the ability to just almost observe it and create that space is something that I don't think I would have been able to do before. Like I probably would have gotten just caught by the anxiety and kind of sucked in to living anxiously forever, how long that emotion kind of had grabbed me.
Yeah, for sure. That's well said.
And another thing that I was just thinking is the just kind of the ability to be aware of my own thoughts and then kind of deconstruct them and examine them a little bit better. Like I may notice that a thought had appeared that I was starting to feel a little bit maybe like jealous of what someone had done or what they're doing or whatever it is. You start to notice. That's just an example. There's probably plenty of other things I would have thought, but that's just an example of where I would have started to feel a little bit of jealousy, and then you recognize that thought. Whereas prior to practicing mindfulness, I don't think I would have been as good as recognizing that thought. And the good thing about recognizing that thought is then you can kind of deconstruct that and analyze it and kind of think about, where is that coming from? Is that beneficial? Maybe that's coming from an insecurity that I have with myself, and maybe that's something that I need to address, and I should probably stop projecting this jealousy out on that other person, because then it's going to come off as it's going to just be bad. Like it might be someone, maybe even like your friend or family that you're being jealous of, right? And the fact that you're unable to catch yourself being jealous could lead you to saying things to them or acting towards them in ways that you would prefer not to. So the ability that you're able to say, oh, I'm feeling jealous, that's likely because I'm just kind of like, let's say they're wearing some like clothes that you wish you had. Oh, I'm insecure about that, but like it doesn't make sense. And you just kind of analyze it and you're like, okay, well, let's
you're kind of like also just kind of looking at it like, is this beneficial for me? Like, is there anything I can do about this? And then like, if not, you're getting rid of it quickly so you don't have to waste the energy thinking about these things. Or your energy could be better spent with other things, other thoughts, I guess. Yeah,
the energy could be better spent with things that are a bigger priority to you. Like I heard this one example, and this one really stuck with me, especially because just like the way that it's set up with basically, so what it was if let's say you have like a young daughter, it doesn't really matter who it is, actually. It could be your friend, your girlfriend, your family member, whoever it is. But let's say they're telling you a story, for this example, for like the effects and the like you feeling like especially bad about it. I will say it's your daughter, so a 5-year-old daughter.
Okay.
So your 5-year-old daughter is telling you a story about like what she did that day.
Yeah.
And as she's telling you that story, maybe your phone vibrates or rings or whatever, and you get a new email. And maybe this completely sucks you in and draws all of your attention, and you're not able to recognize, okay, there's an email, my daughter's also talking. The email's probably not urgent. I'd rather focus on what my daughter's saying. And you don't have the mindfulness in that situation, so you just get sucked in by the email. You pick up your phone, and maybe you start responding, and you even start typing out your email, and all the while, you're completely ignoring the story that your 5-year-old daughter is telling you. So this lack of mindfulness and this kind of bad habit to get your thoughts completely drawn in by whatever thing that pops up leads you to turning your head away from your daughter and kind of ignoring her while she's telling her the story. And obviously she's going to notice this. Yeah. And she's going to feel bad about that. Yeah. And although that's 1 minute, maybe that's like a 1 minute situation between you and your daughter, those things pile up. And at the end of the day, all life is just a series or like a sequence of those things continually happening one after another. And
and I think like in that scenario, I don't even think you have to pick up your phone and look at the email. Like I think your mind can just start into thinking about work or whatever, as soon as you get a ding notification, you're like, oh my, your mind starts spiraling into like this, and you're just like maybe you're still looking at your daughter and nodding your head, but you're thinking about something completely different because your mind is just out of control doing what it wants.
And it's a shame, because if you were probably to ask that person, hey, when your daughter's telling you a story, would you prefer to be paying attention to her and giving her your full attention and providing her with some feedback? Or would you rather, if your phone rang, you'd just ignore your daughter and pay attention to it? You'd say, no, of course I would want to pay attention to her and to what she's saying. But the temptation of the phone and the lack of mindfulness often doesn't allow you to be able to do that, to focus on what your true priority is.
Yeah, and that reminds me of like a study that I heard about, where just having your phone on the table, like if you're at a dinner with friends or something, like if people put their phones on the table, apparently they smile 30% less. Which is like interesting stat, because just having like just looking at your phone, it takes you out of the moment, and you start thinking about like a text message you have to send to somebody. Oh, I haven't responded to this. I have a work email I have to look. Basically, you just start thinking about other things like than the moment you're currently
in. The mindfulness and taking time to practice meditation daily has helped me be present and also helped with my ability to like be positive, because I'm able to, like you said, stay focused longer, to kind of say, wow, in this moment, like Sammy, you mentioned you were walking in the woods earlier, like maybe now you're able to walk in the woods and take a moment to say, wow, these trees are beautiful, the sun is shining, it's really nice, I'm able to go for this walk. Whereas personally, before I was meditating, I wasn't really able to, or I just wasn't doing it as much, where I was taking a moment to really be grateful and present. Yeah,
and the ability to do that could actually be like insanely have an insanely big impact on your life. Like that example of, oh, you didn't listen to your daughter's story for a little bit might seem like a minor thing, but the thing is, your habit of not being mindful to whoever's talking to you and focusing more on whatever notification pops up on your phone, that habit of doing that may actually create a habit in your daughter or whoever is listening that they no longer want to tell you any stories, because every time you do, they end up leaving with a bad feeling, because you usually completely ignore whatever they're saying. So they're like, oh, I don't even want to bother. And that alone, if they develop that habit, that could be massive for the rest of you and their relationship. So like these things might seem minor, but they could really add up.
Right. Yeah. And what is life all about if not moments of joy with the people you care about?
And life is just one moment after the other. So it's
and like practicing meditation, it kind of made me aware of like how seldom I sit and do nothing.
That's a big one.
How seldom I sit and do nothing. Like it's so easy to just go from like basically screen to screen to interaction and kind of like it's so rare that I would just sit and think and do nothing. And like it wasn't until doing these like little guided meditations that you realize, like, even if it's just 10 minutes, and I'm like, wow, I never sit for 10 minutes without doing anything.
You're always occupied. At least like most people these days are just always occupied by something. Phone, TV, whatever it is. There's always something kind of.
Can we talk about because I like things to be organized, the practical, like what practical things you guys are doing that is mindfulness or meditation today? So Sammy, you just mentioned you do guided meditations. Like, can we talk about what exactly all these benefits we're speaking about, what exactly is this meditation we're doing? Like for me, it's also guided meditation typically.
I'm down to do that. And then I actually kind of wanted to go through a guided meditation, like try to guide one in a sense, just for a little bit.
Okay.
But we'll see how that works. But
wow, you threw this on us. Shocker.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do guided meditation usually an app. I got like the Waking Up app, which is Sam Harris.
Yeah,
but
shout out to the ad. I just wanted to, usually at the beginning of the podcast, I say where a lot of these ideas have come from.
Yeah.
And I forgot to say that at the beginning, but it was from the book and the app, Waking Up by Sam Harris.
Yeah.
He's got some good stuff. So.
And there's
check it
also
out.
like, I mean, there's other ones like Headspace, and they have a series on Netflix right now I've been watching, which is
It's
really
a good one, eh?
Yeah, it is good. But I think like ultimately it's kind of just like practicing so you can do this throughout the day. It's not like one session. It's more just like kind of like just learning how to kind of be aware of your thoughts as they come, like we were mentioning earlier in this podcast. So it's like although I say I practice for these like little 10-minute sessions, I try and find times throughout the day where I kind of just practice when things are just going on in my life.
It's not really like a thing where you got to go sit down and close your eyes in the corner type of activity. You could be meditating all day long, and some of those examples that we show about your daughter telling you a story, that's kind of a situation where you're essentially meditating. You're being mindful. So it's not like, it's obviously good to do the actual practice. Like maybe you go and you do sit down and you just think, or you just sit by yourself for 10 minutes, but the application and the places where you could end up meditating are almost everywhere.
For me, the guided meditation is what was the starting board. What do you call it?
Springboard.
The springboard of what has helped me be mindful throughout a day. So just from a practical perspective, if anyone was interested in kind of like starting, because a lot of things we're talking about are pretty abstract and like be mindful, but for me, it was just 10 minutes a day of doing a guided meditation where it really isn't a lot of like willpower or any like strengths you already need to possess, but rather you just press play and then you see where it takes you.
Yeah. And it is surprising just like the first couple times doing that, how kind of, I don't know if difficult's the right word, but like it's kind of like you just realize that your mind's so crazy and it's like it's hard to calm it down.
Yeah.
And like another analogy that I like is like the kind of like, if you think about like a glass of water with like some dirt in it, and it's like constantly being like shaken, which is like when you're not being mindful and the thoughts are just coming like crazy and you can't see through it.
Yeah.
And then the meditation kind of just like lets it calm down and the dirt falls to the bottom and then it's clear again.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Dirty cup of water. I haven't seen a lot of those, but that's that totally
you haven't
makes
seen
sense.
a lot of dirty cups of water?
Yeah, because if you just keep throwing, like if you think about just throwing thoughts constantly into your mind and they're bouncing around like the pinball kind of thing, it gets really crazy. And then like every now and then you just got to settle it down so you can think clearly.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the things that you'll first notice if you try to start doing the meditation and the guided meditation, is that your mind is so out of control and you may not have even been aware of that before. Like the thoughts are kind of just going to be running all over the place, and your ability to actually focus on what you want to focus is probably not very good. Like if you want to focus, a lot of what you'll begin doing is trying to focus on your breath, and you'll realize how difficult it is to actually just stay focused on your breath for more than like a few breaths. It's so easy to lose your train of thought. And that's the good thing about the guided meditation, is it's almost like a mindfulness alarm. Because sometimes when I'm meditating, I'll be completely lost in thought for minutes at a time. And I probably could have gone the entire meditation session just being lost in thought for the whole 10 minutes or whatever length you're doing. But if it weren't for in your earbuds or on the app, it kind of saying, oh, okay, if you're lost in thought, let's go back to the breath or whatever. And sometimes I even miss those. Like I'm so lost in thought that I didn't even hear the guy say, oh, you might be lost in thought, so let's go back to the breath. Like it's crazy how your thoughts could basically close off the rest of your awareness to even sounds that are directly in your ear through earbuds. You didn't even notice them. It's like
I've actually like at the end of the guided thing, he'll often be like, okay, thank you for doing it, I'll see you next week. I've missed that completely and then I just sat like for another couple of minutes lost in thought, and then been like, oh, is this over now? Which is just like Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
another gift from doing the meditations that I've found that's been a product of being more mindful is that I have a lot more self-awareness about my own weaknesses and strengths,
Mm-hmm.
and it just again is really helpful throughout your life, I think, to have good self-awareness. And this has brought into my life a lot more clarity on, you know, why I do the things that I do and different behaviors that are habits that I'm trying to practice, or
Yeah.
things I'm trying to unlearn. And it's kind of something that I didn't expect when I started meditating. I thought, oh yeah, within a day, like the muddy water thing, but I've actually found that it's added more water to my glass.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That's
and it's like
very profound.
you can catch these like negative feelings that you don't like, right? When you start feeling anxious or something,
Yeah.
and then you go, why is this happening? And then you can kind of understand like where it comes from, and in a way how to prevent it, or maybe just how to deal with it when it does come.
Exactly.
So it doesn't take over your whole consciousness.
Exactly. An example in my life of what I attribute to having done meditation and being more reflective is that I've discovered that I have a anxious, insecure attachment style in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And like not overwhelmingly so, but it just a discovery that I made because I was more attuned to situations where I was, why am I reacting this way? I'm starting to feel this emotion. Where is this coming from? And it led me to kind of, dig deeper and reflect more on my feelings to then discover that, which has helped me become a lot more just free and within my own relationships with anyone, and understanding myself better and what works and communication styles I can use to better connect with people.
Yeah, that's a good example, because any kind of problem that or like mental habit that you tend to have, like that anxious attachment being kind of like a mental habit, in order to change that habit, you first need to be aware of it, right?
Yeah.
And mindfulness gives you that ability to be aware of it. And then for you, and for any mental habit is also just being honest with yourself and being able to admit some of the things that you've been doing that maybe aren't so flattering. Like the example I gave before about, me, I was starting to think some jealousy about whatever, and you, for that example, starting to have some anxious attachment. That's not necessarily like a flattering thing to admit to yourself.
No.
But it's a good thing to do, because you first need to be aware of it and then totally honest with yourself that you are doing it.
Yeah.
Because you can't lie to yourself, because you have the mindfulness to see clearly that you're doing it. And but it's in those moments where you're able to fix them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another powerful thing about trying to develop your mindfulness, is you'll gain more abilities to fix these things, because you'll be aware of these flaws and these habits that aren't serving you well far more than you would have been aware of them before.
Yeah, it does. It really feels like the gift that keeps giving, because I found in the couple of years that I've been meditating that I'm constantly pleasantly surprised by just kind of either how I feel calm in situations where I wouldn't have 5 years ago, or where I have these epiphany moments where I'm like, oh, because I took the time to think about that scenario, I now have so much of a better understanding of it.
Yeah. It's like it's kind of like that superhero thing you mentioned earlier, in a way, for all situations, because now you're choosing how you interpret these situations that happen in your life, rather than just letting them come in and it spins you whichever way.
Something, this also isn't the most flattering reveal, but I didn't realize until well into my 20s that emotions were not something that were out of your control. I actually thought that when you feel an emotion, because I understand the feeling of an emotion, that's very natural and innate, but that doesn't have to control you. I thought, let's say you feel angry, well, then you're angry and you express that, and that's that, and you don't ever stop to reflect and say, do I need to feel this anger? I have control over it. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? The control of emotions I find so fascinating that I've learned, and because I always thought if someone flew off the handle, I mean, I definitely had the awareness to think, you could not fly off the handle or get really angry about something, but I didn't understand the extent of that control that you can have.
Yeah. And also like, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And I feel like it's also goes hand in hand with just like understanding what that emotion even is to you. And often like these things like anger, it's often like comes from some fear or insecurity in yourself.
Anger is
like
seen as a surface emotion, which is something that has a deeper root in a different emotion.
Right.
So you might be angry, but like you said, it's fear, it's insecurity, it's jealousy, it's envy, it's frustration,
Right.
it's contempt, it's
And I think that's one of the most important things that mindfulness is trying to address is the identification with these thoughts and identification with these emotions. And what I mean by that is like you become identified with whatever you just thought. So if you're starting to feel angry, you are angry versus you recognizing that you're feeling angry and then addressing it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being angry. It's a very real emotion, but the idea that you can understand within seconds, this is where the anger is coming from and this is how I will choose to react, and it doesn't have to be from a place of anger. I can say, verbalize, I'm really angry right now, but you don't have to be raising your voice. You don't have to be throwing things across the room. You can just say, I'm really angry.
One that like I find serves me well, like kind of understanding the emotion, like that the anger might come from a place of fear. And like I think like a easy example to understand is like the road rage one, where somebody cuts you off and you just instantly like get angry at them. But maybe that's coming from a place of like you were so scared because you're driving these fast vehicles, and it kind of just like gave you this intense fear that you just like turned.
You were so startled that you were so like, whose fault is this? I don't want this fear on me. You didn't want to fear the I have Invisalign in right now, so I can't. You didn't want to feel the fear, and so therefore you say, who can I blame for this? So it's not something that is an insecurity about me. It's something I can put on someone else.
Exactly.
Can we also just encourage people to look at an emotion wheel? Because that I think
shout out to Invisalign.
Shout out to emotion wheels.
Because those an emotion wheel is really interesting. It's basically exactly what we're talking about, where you can really clearly, in a really simple format, look at how you're feeling, and then the wheel does the work and shows you what other emotions might be under the surface. Yeah,
because I think the ability to label the emotion actually provides quite a bit of relief, because that's kind of what it is when you step back and you observe it. But imagine if you were to step back and observe like the feeling you're feeling, but you didn't know what to call it. You didn't know what to say. Like you couldn't say, oh, I'm feeling angry. You're just like, I don't know. There's something crazy going on. That's not as relieving to in comparison to stepping back and recognizing that you're feeling a certain thing and be like, oh, I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. And that's, I think, where the emotion wheel comes in handy, where it's like you just start to get a better understanding of what the various things you could be feeling and what to maybe how you identify them, how you label them or whatever.
I encourage people to, on top of meditating then as well, to also expand their vocabulary when it comes to emotion.
Yeah, you're asking a lot from people now. But
well, because like you said, also if you say I'm angry, that can mean so many different things. But if you say I'm really disappointed and I'm feeling angry, then I think you're better able to understand what is actually going on and what the root is.
And also, like, just use that wording if you were to say it to somebody else, like you're in a relationship with. It's so much, it just opens the conversation up, like the second way you said it, rather than saying like, I'm angry. If you're like, I'm disappointed and I'm feeling angry. Right. Then all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's have a conversation.
Right.
About
and you can even say,
I'm
it can always be the idea that you, like you said, Ollie, it's not you are something, but you feel something. So I am feeling disappointed. I'm feeling angry. This is what I observed happen, or like, this was my observation and interpretation of what happened that made me feel upset. And there's kind of just using, that's what I mean is like, I would suggest expanding your vocabulary so you're better able to communicate and share how you're feeling, And then also practice using words that don't label you as such or label other people as such, where it's like, Ollie's always frustrated when I do this.
Right.
Like that's not helpful. That's a whole other podcast, though, talking about feelings in that capacity.
Right. Yeah. It's all good though. Like you're saying, the more you learn about emotions and mindfulness and stuff, the better. Because at the end of the day, these are things that's why I think mindfulness is the, like, if you could develop one habit that would have the biggest impact on the other areas of your life, I think mindfulness would be one of them, because your mind is your life, essentially. Like, you take your mind wherever you go. So whatever situation you're in, you're going to be experiencing the emotions that you were talking about, and the mindfulness techniques are applicable in any scenario.
Yeah.
So if you wanted one habit to have the biggest of a ripple effect on the rest of your life, I think it could be trying to do like a daily meditation, mindfulness practice.
So the obstacle is the way, mindfulness is life.
Stillness is the key.
Yeah.
You're giving away our next topic.
That's a preview for a future podcast. Stillness is the key. But
what did you say? Mindfulness is the way. Oh no, is life.
Obstacles are the way. Mindfulness is life.
Mindfulness is life. Put
Yeah.
that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we should get t-shirts. For the photos, I was thinking, you know how there's like an Instagram photo after? I was thinking of almost trying to dress according to the topic. But
Wow.
that might be pretty hard to do.
And then
Actually, I
Like,
feel
we
for
all
Halloween,
just like dress up
should,
as like
all
super
try to
mindful,
be-
whatever that.
and then we
means
give
exactly, but-
the listeners some homework too. Can you please
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
the emotion wheel?
yeah. We print off a bunch of copies, deliver it
I
to
want the
everybody's
back
house.
of my shirt to have an emotion wheel.
What?
I want the back of my shirt to have an emotion wheel.
Okay, well, we'll make it happen.
But truly, if
your
anyone
birthday?
is really interested in the emotion wheel, you could buy pillows that have it on it.
That'd be
Is
a fun
that-
guessing game, actually. Like, we look at Kailey and we're just like looking at the back of your shirt. Which one do you think she's feeling right now? And we
Yeah.
just like pinpoint.
I'm not as
Just
aware.
sobbing.
Yeah.
Can you explain the emotion wheel to me a little more? Like, is it, or can I take a guess at it?
It's not a game show, but here we
Yeah,
are.
Yeah. Here we
Is
go.
it
game
like-
show.
It puts emotions together, like how excitement and anxiety they're essentially the same raw emotion,
Kailey's
but
gonna
they're
send you a picture, maybe,
interpreted
or she's just on
two
Twitter.
different ways, where one is negative and one is kind of positive. Were you listening, or are you? on your
Oh,
phone?
there we go. There's the example of distracted by your email. This is a perfect example.
I thought you wanted an example today in the podcast.
Yeah. Okay, I did actually want to provide an example about one time that I still remember where you got lost in thought, but it was kind of a reverse scenario of
Wait, can I just say though? It's
and this
like,
is not to call you
I
out
know,
or anything.
I just
Everybody
wanna-
does it, but I just
want to say that, like, typically, would you guys not agree that I'm a very good listener?
yeah, you are. For
Like,
sure.
it's not often
No,
that
and
I'm
wasn't
spaced
this
out.
actually wasn't you listening.
Oh.
It was you were telling me a story, and Sammy, you were there too, so you might remember this. But it was at Christmas time. We had a Christmas tree, and we were at the dinner table, and Kailey was telling me a story. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but don't give me that
Who's
look.
not listening now?
yeah. No, but okay. So she was telling me this story, and she was looking directly at me, and yeah, Kailey. So you were looking directly at me, telling me the story, but then I noticed that your head started to move a little bit to the right, and you were looking at this point. You were looking past me, and then your hand started to raise up to point at whatever was right past me. But in that moment, I was like, oh no, she's looking at some other thing. And halfway through her story, she's just completely lost looking at whatever it is. So then I lifted my hand up and kind of like tapped your hand back to the center. I was like, no, let's finish this story. But what had happened was there was a shiny ornament on the Christmas tree behind us. And
That'll get you every time.
that had completely grabbed your attention. And you were looking at that ornament. And you
How long ago was this?
This was this Christmas. But
I have no words.
yeah, no, I'm not trying to be mean or call you out or anything. Everybody definitely has scenarios like
No,
that, but I just remember that
Are you
in
wearing
particular. Oh my goodness, what are those pants? Sammy just took his pants off. But
Sammy's wearing 2 pairs of pants today.
yeah,
Hashtag
this podcast is
Canada.
going crazy. My mic just fell off the stand right now.
I have two things about
Maintenance
that.
crew is
Great
fixing it.
example, because that's it's amazing how actually, as someone who I don't think I'm very good at multitasking, but obviously sometimes I am, because I can look at tree ornaments and tell stories.
Yeah.
But also, just
Put that
a
on the resume.
fun fact about myself, I love Christmas, so I could see myself just feeling full joy looking at the Christmas tree, going like, "Oh my gosh, that decoration looks great in this lighting."
Yeah, I think
So
it was
What about
the
your
one
brother in that lighting?
Yeah, exactly.
I said I love Christmas.
Yeah.
Just
And
kidding.
you don't love
No.
the other option?
No, I love you as well.
Thank you. This is yeah. But yeah, that
That's a funny story.
yeah. That was
also love that
you were
tried
there
to,
too,
like,
Sinner.
swat my hand away.
No, I did. I tried to move your hand back to the middle. I was like, no. Let's finish this.
So-
Let's finish this story here.
Okay,
So
what do you
that
think the
her-
Christmas tree ornament was?
I think it was the one that Matt had made. It was our cat Freddy, and you're like, oh, look at that, there it is. And I think I'd seen it before too, so I was like, yeah, I know what you're pointing at, but like, let's just, what's the story?
Okay, yeah,
Right.
for sure. I'm really happy with that Christmas ornament.
So that if you had better mindfulness,
If anyone wants to see a photo of it, we can add that to the Instagram account.
oh,
Okay, now you're making promises we might not be able to keep, but we'll see what we can do.
So that's funny because here I am saying I've been practicing meditation for 2 years, and then 3 months ago, apparently I'm like
Well, okay,
a child.
that's one thing too. Like, I don't want people to think, oh, you start meditating and then you never ever do that stuff ever
Yes,
again.
exactly. No, exactly.
You just maybe do it less frequently, but you're still gonna get caught in those traps. Like,
Oh,
everybody's
yeah,
going
for
to.
sure.
Yeah.
No matter how long have you been meditating for 300 years, that's a bad
yeah.
number. But
once
anyway,
there's shiny ornaments around, it's like
yeah, they're just
it's
Well,
hard
it's
to pay
kind of a
attention.
metaphor of life because there will always be shiny ornaments.
That's
Mhm.
true, yeah, and it's hard to focus on in the moment all the time.
Yeah.
right.
Things just like yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if your mind gets a little bit tired too, and it starts just thinking about whatever it wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the power of thought is incredible. Like, I mean, if you think about everything in human society, there was a thought that had planted a seed for that thing to eventually grow. Like, any of the best things that have been constructed or deconstructed started with a thought. Like, everything in science, art, religion, whatever it is,
Yeah.
that started with a thought and an idea, and then it grew into whatever. And that just kind of goes to show the power of how big how much your thoughts can influence what happens in the world. And it's a shame that so much of our thoughts are unconscious and we're not aware of them. Like, if you think about the thought that back in history, someone would have had the thought to begin to do, just for like a drastic kind of example, someone would have had the thought to begin to do slavery, and somebody also had the thought to end slavery. And those are insanely significant things in the history of humanity, and they all just started with somebody having the thought to do one of those things.
Right.
And so thoughts can lead to insanely significant things in people's lives, but most of our thoughts go unchecked and we're unaware of them.
Right.
And so you could be stuck in kind of like a continual bad habit, like the bad thought habit of thinking about the wrong things or thinking about ideologies that are toxic for you, and be totally unaware of them. And you could do that for your whole life if you don't ever catch it.
Absolutely.
And I feel like you almost have to like work on it and like train your thoughts to like behave in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that, like, just for me, for like running, I also picked up running kind of at a similar time, like a year or two ago.
Pick it up
Yeah.
from the store.
Yeah. It's on sale.
Yeah.
Yo, but I'd start running, and like I feel like my mind would like I would give up like easy.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes sense, where you're just like,
Right.
when something hard comes along or the run is like along, I'm just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And like, that was my natural thought process. Like it would just come like that.
Yeah.
And then like I feel like I've been training it to like choose the harder option. So when it gets difficult, then you say, okay, we're gonna finish this still, no matter what.
Yeah.
Kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
mindfulness has a big application for working out or going through things that are physically stressing. Like I find
Yes.
for the cold showers or the couple times that I did the ice plunge, mindfulness applied there, where if you're able to kind of take a step back, that's what it always kind of ends up being, is just take a step back and watch the feelings that you're feeling. And so while you're running and you're feeling you're feeling like, I don't know, whatever it is, Sammy, your legs are hurting or your lungs are starting to get tense or whatever.
And it's almost just like it would be easier if I just walked, kind of.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
thought comes into my
Right.
head, and then I think I used to be like, yeah, that's easier, and I just stop, you know.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I've been training my brain, when those thoughts come into my head, I don't act on it immediately.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like, okay, that's
Right,
the
you
thought,
can process
but
it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the better option for me is to push through this. Like I can just a little bit more awareness instead of just jumping on the first thing that.
I
Right.
attribute
Exactly,
some of
yeah.
my accomplishment of running a half marathon to meditation, because it's not something I ever thought I could do, and I feel like it was because I just didn't have enough control or the work ethic or the thought process to do it. And then with a combination of meditating and then the physical training, of course, I thought the half marathon was more attainable than it ever could have been if I hadn't been meditating.
Yeah. I think for the most part, getting lost in thought is actually not a good thing. But there's sometimes where getting lost in thought seems to actually relieve a little bit of suffering. Like when I've actually been on a run and I'm super focused and I'm not aware of like anything that's going on except for the pain that I'm feeling in my lungs and my legs. That sucks. But then maybe I zone out and I get distracted about thinking about what I'm going to do the next day or the mistake that I made the day prior. And it's like, oh, why did I do that? But for that little period of my run, I'm actually kind of relieved of the pain that I'm feeling in my like lungs and legs because I got distracted by a thought about what I said the day before or what I'm going to do later.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's a small example where maybe getting distracted in thought could actually be helpful. But for the most part, it's not a good thing.
No, for sure. Can I just quickly, because I don't want to leave this hanging, the emotion wheel.
Sure.
I just will quickly, I'll give one example. So in like kind of there's different layers to it in this circle, and we'll just say anger for one. We talked about how maybe you say, oh, I feel really angry. The emotion wheel gives you a visualization to dig deeper and understand that emotion better. So the next layer of the emotion wheel, for the emotion anger, is you feel let down. Do you feel humiliated, bitter, mad, aggressive, frustrated, distant, critical? And then even deeper, you say, is it because I'm feeling betrayed, resentful, disrespected, ridiculed, violated, furious, jealous, provoked, hostile, infuriated, annoyed, withdrawn, numb, skeptical, or dismissive? And again, there's other emotions it can be, but it's just an example of how saying you're angry to every situation where you feel maybe anger isn't helpful. What is more helpful is saying, I feel withdrawn because I haven't been able to see my friends in a while. That is really disappointing, and it's coming out as anger right now.
So getting just more and more specific.
Yeah.
More in tune.
And the wheel is just a visual of that. So
how can somebody pull this up if they want it to follow
type
along?
in emotion wheel.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Ollie, you wanted to do a guided meditation?
Yeah, I did want to just try to do that just so anybody who's listening could probably actually follow along with it too.
Should they make sure that they're not driving or operating heavy machinery?
That's up to them.
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
We're not liable.
I'm not
for
going to give any clauses or whatever. you do it whenever you
keep driving that tractor.
yeah. We got a lot of tractor drivers that are fans of the podcast. But basically, you can pick any item that's in your visual field. So for me, I see right ahead. There's a Blu-ray player.
You're
DVD
like you're in my visual field.
Okay, well, I could be your thing. Yeah.
Well, I'll choose something else.
Oh, why?
Some Christmas
Well,
ornament
should I
behind
just
you.
stare at you?
I mean, you could. No, but yeah, pick something else.
Okay.
And Sammy, pick something too.
The Blu-ray player is a bit of a flex, eh?
Yeah.
Oh.
That would have been a flex like 20 years ago.
In my visual field, I've got a Blu-ray player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got a Blu-ray player.
I've got an assault
there's that.
bike.
Yeah. Got just stacks of cash right there. I'll take that maybe. No. But
Mugs.
yeah, you've probably got a mug around here. But yeah, Blu-ray player. So whatever it is that you've decided to put your attention on, you try to give your full attention to that object. And so within your visual field, you're focusing your attention on that. But you also, while you're focusing on that, recognize that there are other things in your visual field that are also there, but you're focusing on this Blu-ray player or whatever it may be. And along with the other things that are in your visual field, there's other sensations that are happening as well. In your body, maybe you're feeling some vibration, some itching. Okay, don't
I
laugh.
just pictured dancing.
Why?
Because he said vibration. It's like move your body.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's go back to that. You're feeling vibrations or itching or whatever it is. And maybe you're feeling you feel the breath, you're feeling your heartbeat, and all of this is happening at the same time that you're trying to focus your attention on the object that you're looking at. And one thing that may be a little bit harder to notice is thoughts are also appearing at the same time as you are focusing on this object. You might even be having a thought about how this is challenging to focus on this one object while there's other things happening in the background, or there's sensations in your body that you're feeling. And maybe you're not necessarily directly thinking it, but you could even just notice the fact that you're feeling you're feeling some pulls in other directions. You're feeling like you're going to be pulled to lose your attention on this object. Maybe there's a shiny ornament in the background that you would love to divert your attention from this Blu-ray player over to that ornament. It's very tempting, but you stay focused. But the idea is that mindfulness is just awareness of everything that is going on in your consciousness, and there's a lot going on. There's the physical sensations, the sounds, the what's going on in your visual field, and also the thoughts. But that's, I feel like, hopefully a good description of what mindfulness is where you are aware of all of the things that are happening, but you're able to prioritize the thing that you want to focus on most. So in this example, there's some people, I can hear footsteps upstairs. I can hear I can feel my breath. I can notice that I'm thinking about different things. My hands are feeling a little bit cold, but I set the priority to put my focus on the Blu-ray player. And obviously that doesn't seem like a great thing to put your focus on, but the idea is that you could be in a different situation, maybe where you're talking to somebody and you're able to be aware of everything that's happening, but you put your focus on the conversation that you're having at the moment. So yeah, that's the first time I've ever tried to run through a little explanation. Hopefully that made sense. What do you guys think? Did that kind of make any sense?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a lot of good information in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. And I like that, the kind of idea of being able to kind of like laser focus your attention wherever you want it, like when you need it.
Yeah. The mindfulness isn't being able to focus, isn't like mindfulness and attention are slightly different things. Attention is something that you're doing within the open plane of consciousness. So within everything that you're aware of, you can be specifically attentive to one of those things.
Yeah.
But while you're attentive to one of those things, you're still aware of all the other things that are happening.
Okay.
And I feel like the biggest, most important thing that I've gained from that is just like being aware of emotions and thoughts that are popping up, but also being aware of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And not getting sucked into whatever negative emotion or toxic thought that I'm having.
Yeah.
And you're still aware of all the other stuff that's happening, because it is always happening. Like, even when you're in that anxious mood, there's the sounds, the sights, the feelings in your body, all that stuff is still happening, but you just lose awareness. Little smirk on your face there. What was that?
I always think about why Kailey would point at the ornament.
yeah, it's a mystery.
I know why, because I'm really proud of it. I really love that ornament. So I would just have been like, it would be an inappropriate time, but it would probably be a time similar to like where with the apples or the mugs or whatever it is. Yeah. I'm just like, I saw it at the corner of my eye, and then I'm just like, oh, that is great. You see that? That's a good one. And then that's all, not the right time. I just thought it was funny because
that's what it wasn't me who was telling the story, because that would almost make more sense for I'm just telling like some boring story and you're like, oh, look at that ornament, but it was literally you were telling me, you're like, yeah, so this happened, and then your hand goes over, look at that.
Yeah.
It's
like, also what just happened right there is I kind of interrupted you with my smirk because I was just thinking about something else while you were talking.
Right.
Yeah. And that smirk actually reminds me of a just like the fact that people are so programmed to get like significantly influenced by what other people say, or the emotions that they're kind of showing on their face. So one little smirk or one little frown could completely kind of destroy your internal state.
Right, because now you're like, am I saying something funny, or
yeah.
Funny how?
You're trying to square up, or
yeah.
But, yeah, like because there's the idea that like we have kind of like a monkey mind, almost like a lot of our programming and self-concern about what other people are thinking, and our social anxiety and stuff is due to like through evolution we're still running on a very like tribal mentality that's like kind of like a primitive thing. And I thought the idea was interesting, that like the idea of like a software update, almost, it's like we're still running on the same software that we've been using for like thousands of years ago, but human society and civilization has changed, and it's especially changed with all the new distractions that we have in our lives, but we're still running on that primitive software from however long ago. So it'd be nice to maybe like we would have on your iPhone or your computer, to just be like, click, I'm gonna get a software update, and maybe all of your it's like a little patch where all of your like neurosis or like bad psychological habits kind of get cleared away, or there's like a virus detection system. So like when you're going down a path of like
things.
Just be like, all right, let's get rid of it. But in a sense, maybe I feel like the mindfulness is a virus detection system. You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
it is your virus detection system, because you become aware of the virus. Before the psychological virus was just running through you without you being aware of it.
Okay.
But through better mindfulness, you're able to catch that virus and make, let's delete this, or let's work through.
True.
And then once they invent the Neuralink, it might be more literal, this virus detection.
Mindfulness.
Can we end the podcast with everyone saying one thing they're grateful for?
Yeah, sure. I thought you were gonna end it at that. Can we end the podcast? It's like, okay, sure.
I have a question. Can we end the podcast?
One thing we're grateful for? Sure, you go first. I need a little bit of time to think.
Well, maybe I do too.
Well, that's the burden you get for suggesting it.
Okay. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have deeper conversations with you guys, who are two of my three brothers. I also have deep conversations with my third brother, and I feel very grateful for that, to be able to have conversations like this with my family members, and I feel like you guys help me be a better person.
That's beautiful. And I agree. It's
Yeah,
nice.
I agree.
I feel very grateful that I'm.
You guys are like, you guys just are like cheating. Like I was like, sure, you can like borrow my assignment, but don't make it the same.
Yeah, we're like, yo, I was gonna say that exactly.
Yeah.
So
When you were saying that, I was thinking about those times when you're around the Thanksgiving dinner and everyone has to say something you're thankful for, and like it's like someone just takes the good ones right off the bat. They're like, thankful for the food, thankful for this.
Yeah,
Like,
thankful
oh
for
no, what am I
family.
gonna say now?
yeah.
But
And then you're
No,
like,
that's a
those
good-
they took my ideas.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm thankful that we're in this situation we're in, considering that like with COVID and everything going on, things could be a lot worse, but we're able to still kind of have these social relationships in person where we can have these conversations that are very educational. And I learned about the emotion wheel today, which was really beneficial. So it's kind of nice that we can, because a lot of people don't have the benefit of having these in-person conversations during this pandemic, and I'm just grateful that we still get to do it.
Right, that's
Mhm.
very true.
Is that your idea too?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me
You're just taking
guess.
you're just taking all my ideas, but no, I'm grateful to have you guys to be able to do this podcast with, and like both of you said, it's a like educational experience, and I'm grateful to even have the setup that we have here to do the podcast, that I have these books and whatnot that I could maybe take some notes from to the podcast, and even just the fact that, why are you giggling?
Thinking about the ornaments.
Yeah, but
No, please continue, please. I'm so sorry.
okay, yeah, just like the fact, I'm grateful that I had happened upon the Sam Harris meditation app. Okay, a lot of laughs going on here.
Why are you? Ollie, I am too. I meant to say today, I have like a life-changing moment. It was a life-changing moment for me when we're sitting in your car like 2 years ago, and you were dropping me off at my house, and you said, hey, just wait a sec, let me show you this 20-minute like podcast thing. And I was like, well, sure. And then we sat in your car and listened to it, and that really is what got me started.
Yeah, I mean, grateful that yeah, I'm grateful that happened too, because I mean, mindfulness is something that impacts everybody that's in your life, because it's kind of the way you go about the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a better mindfulness habit of catching yourself when you're angry, for example, maybe you less often get mad at your siblings or your whoever's in your life, you know what I mean? Like, so it's a good thing to have there. But yeah, all the resources that are required to make this, and to have you guys here to be participating in the podcast, I'm grateful for that. And yeah, there's lots you could go on for days
Shout
and
out
days.
to the
but
Blu-ray player.
yeah, I'm grateful for that for sure. I use that a lot.
Coming from the guy who doesn't watch movies.
Exposed me on my podcast, eh?
Hasn't watched a movie since he was 18.
What? No, I watched a movie this year.
Like in the last 12 months, you watched a movie. Yes. yes. I know. We all heard about it.
Yeah, maybe we'll go into that on a future topic. But I feel like that's gonna shock some people, especially because it's been coronavirus. Coronavirus.
Coronavirus. Okay.
Okay.
But,
thank you. I'm grateful for laughter. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and we'll wrap it up on that beautiful note. So, thanks for listening, everybody,
And practice some meditation if you can.
yeah, goodbye. Be mindful and be grateful. Thank you.